Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Cross-Border Commerce Theatre. Today we're here to talk to you about how Big Bus and Oban International embraced search technology to bounce back after the COVID pandemic. And I'll start by letting Louise introduce herself.
Hi everyone, I'm Louise Aldridge. I'm the Head of Digital Marketing at Big Bus Tours. I've been working in digital marketing within the tourism sector for 15 years, 9 of which have been at Big Bus Tours. So my role at the business is to drive the online acquisition strategy through our search channels. So driving sales and revenue through PPC and SEO for all of our cities globally. And that's the element of my role that I really enjoy, that global aspect and all of the nuances that that brings. Get to work very closely with Jules from Oban. So back to you.
Thank you. I am Jules Baudoulet-Soso. I'm the head of paid media at Oban, and I'm also a director. I have been specifically in the international marketing industry for about 11 years, and seven of these years I have spent working with Louise on the Big Bus account. So today is a story about how Big Bus, essentially just like anyone else in the sector, was impacted by the pandemic, but also about how we managed to bounce back using international search and technology to deliver better and bigger performance than prior to the pandemic. And then after that, we'll spend some time to talk to you about what that means for you and for your business. So essentially, just like for everyone, the story starts in 2019, late 2019, when COVID started hitting this sector, the travel sector. We went on to see, obviously, a very low phase where everyone was asked to stay at home. But we also used that opportunity to plan ahead and anticipate the fact that demand was going to recover. And also, we planned to ensure that at the end of that, we were able to come out with stronger growth. But before I carry on, I want to give you a little bit of background about Oban International. So we are a international growth specialist. We help brands grow across their borders. And to do that, we have a unique Lime network. Lime stands for local in-market experts, and these experts, we have hundreds of them around the world, and essentially they help us with insights, with current insights about linguistics and cultures and the local competitive landscape to ensure that all of our clients' communications and messages are properly localized and culturally nuanced.
So I'll do the same for Big Bus. Just a bit of information about who we are. We are the world's leading operator of open-top sightseeing bus tours. We're present in 25 cities across 15 countries. If you're based in London, you may have seen our buses driving around the city, but we're also present in cities such as Paris, New York, Sydney, Hong Kong, and Dubai. So what that means is we have a truly global audience, because if you consider each of our operations in turn, say, for example, Big Bus London, tourists coming into London and looking to do a sightseeing tour could be from anywhere around the world. So to ensure that we're maximising our global reach online, we offer our website in a range of languages, and we have PPC campaigns to support each of those languages. Now, unfortunately, none of our cities behave the same way online. It would be a lot easier if they did. So really, it's like managing 25 different websites and all of their digital marketing activity. It's worth noting that it's a really competitive industry as well. So not only are we competing with other bus tour operators directly, we're competing with all of the other things that you could do in a city. So to help us drive that strategy, we need a great agency. So we've been working with Oban on PPC and SEO for 7 years now. And in the period running up to COVID, Big Bus had been going through a big process of digital expansion. And we'd been growing our web revenue by 20% year on year for the 3 years running up to the pandemic. But then, of course, COVID hit and everything came to a crashing halt. One by one, our cities went into lockdown, so the wheels on the bus literally did stop turning. We had a period of 4 months where we had zero revenue coming into the business. So after the initial shock had worn off after a couple of weeks, we realized COVID wasn't going anywhere quickly. So we started to use that time to be really proactive, take a step back, look at all of our operational processes, the tech solutions that we were using, and of course our digital acquisition strategy. So once our city started to return to operation, what that meant was we were having to adhere to 25 sets of COVID legislations and international travel restrictions. So our source markets were very different to what they were prior, and we realised that we needed a new digital strategy to support that. So we looked at what our new markets were going to be, how quickly that was going to change, and we realised that we needed some tech to help us become more agile in our search strategy, particularly on PPC. And that way, we thought we would come back through it and hopefully come back better than before. So by the time we went into FY23, we were considering this as our new normal year. All of our operations are back up and running with the exception of Hong Kong. So we set ourselves some pretty ambitious growth targets again. We wanted to grow revenue by 23% year on year compared to getting us back to that period of growth that we'd been seeing before. So, sorry, I actually mean compared to FY19 because that was our best year prior to COVID. And more importantly, we had to achieve that revenue growth within a set cost per acquisition, as I'm sure is the case for everyone in this room. But at Big Bus, we actually use a metric called pay away. So I'll just give you a little bit of information about what that means because you'll see it referenced in the deck. But pay away is looking at your digital cost as a percentage of the total revenue that you're achieving. So in effect, it's the amount you're paying away to get that revenue. So in reverse to ROI, you want your pay away to be as low as possible. We look at pay away city by city. So each city has a different pay away threshold depending on the level of competition online. And we also look at pay away by channel. So if you consider PPC, of course, that has a high cost per acquisition and a higher pay away. We then look at pay away for the website overall and what the blended number looks like. So as much as we spend a lot of time and resource investing into PPC, it was really important that we continue to grow the cheaper channels such as SEO because that helps to keep the overall cost per acquisition low for the website.
Hello. So with an internal focus for Big Bus Tours that is laser focused on pay away, on return on investment, it was really important for us to understand how we could build that into our processes on the agency side of things. So what we started doing is ensure that pay away is essentially a key part of our processes for most of the activity that were undertaken on the account. So on the organic side of things, whether it's looking at content or tech roadmaps, we'd always try to assess the impact on pay away before proceeding to implement or to recommend anything. When it comes to PPC, we would ensure that all processes such as keyword mining, media planning, anything to do with launching, rolling out, keyword research, anything to do with growth was again prioritized with a big focus on that pay away figure. It was also really important to understand the relationship between the type of measurements that are available on the platforms and that pay away KPI. For instance, if we know that the Big Bus Tours team has an internal meeting that is focused on pay away performance, we need to understand how does that translate into the measurements that are available on GA4, for example. And we also need to understand how that translates on Google Ads, how that translates into return on ad spend on ROAS, so that we can implement smart bidding strategies that use target ROAS that are aligned with the levels of pay away that we're looking to achieve. Just briefly, if it's new for some people, these automated bidding strategies, they're essentially machine learning based tools that use millions of data points to make auction time decisions, essentially do stuff that humans can't do and do it better. And also, knowing that this pay away performance can fluctuate, whether it's because the machine or the automated tool fluctuates because of market conditions, whether it's because our objectives are changing, we also made sure to build in certain manual levers into that system, so that we can leverage automation, but also be reactive, be hands-on as of when that was needed. So our strategy. So 3 big pillars. The first one was what we like to call catching up. So it was that low time through the pandemic where whilst things were obviously slowing down a lot, our idea was to take a step back and actually sort of take stocks as to what are the key innovations that are currently happening in the industry. Are there any opportunities for us to kind of drill into that a lot more? And also, are there any quick wins that we can go after now? The second pillar, coming out of COVID, was all about ensuring that we were implementing and essentially growing and scaling again in a way that was aligned with that recovery of demand. So we looked at creatives, we looked at international, non-English organic opportunities, and we also made sure to make better use of technology. And then finally, growing and glowing. At that point, we would have implemented a lot of new tactics, so it was really important to take some time to take a step back and essentially assess the impact of each of these tactics, iterate, experiment, and try to see how much more we could draw out of this newly implemented roadmap. So in a bit more depth, essentially the catching up phase for the PPC channel in particular was heavily focused on automated bidding, and we all know that Google has released a lot of tools over the last few years, but we also knew through internal testing that it was never going to be as simple as switching it on and just seeing all of our numbers improve. So we spent a lot of time trying to understand this new technology. What does it mean for the way we're currently approaching PPC? What does it mean for the way our best practice is constructed at the moment, and how do we roadmap across 5 languages and multiple products and a global reach? How do we create a roadmap that will have the impact that we're looking to have? We also made sure to leverage our line network, our local in-market expert network, to go and ask people in market, are consumer behaviors changing? Are people talking about travel in ways that did not exist pre-COVID? Is there some sort of COVID sensitivity in the way people are expressing themselves on the search engine? So we made sure to go and spend time interrogating our network as well. Thirdly, we made sure to have a roadmap that was measured, and in terms of making sure that the performance that we were seeing as we were reinvesting and capitalizing on the recovery of demand, we were doing so in a way that was controlled and measured and not rushed. So we were still delivering the pay-away targets that Big Bus Tools had set to achieve. And then finally, there were some quick wins that we could go after immediately, so we made sure to do that as well. Coming out of COVID, so pillar number 2. So this was all about scale and pace and accuracy and quality of implementation and delivery. So at that point, we understood that we needed to restructure pretty much everything that we'd built over the years on the paid search side of things. If anyone runs, multiple accounts, you'd know that to build a roadmap that is friendly to that scale of change can be quite challenging. So what we realized is that with smart bidding, you need a certain level of data for the machine to do what you want it to do. If you don't build a structure that essentially delivers conversion volumes at a certain level in the account to a certain scale, then it will just not work. And you will find yourself having done plenty of work and no impact, and it can actually negatively impact performance. So we had to look at how do we revise the way we've organized our keyword portfolios, how do we review how languages and geo-targets are being associated together into groups, what does that mean for language performance, and also what does that mean in terms of creatives. We'd now, at that point, had some qualitative data back from our Lime network, so we made sure to implement that back into our RSAs as well. RSAs are responsive search ads, and it is the latest format that you can use on Google Ads. And interestingly, we also were able to see that even with similar data volumes from one language to the other, performance will vary using some of these automated solutions. This will have to do with consumer behaviors in market, the data available to the platform, but also some slight differences in data volumes as well.
So moving into the third phase, which was the glowing and growing. So from a PPC perspective, as Jules has just mentioned, we've gone through a huge change. We've completely restructured all of the accounts, and we've moved on to an AI bidding platform. So it was really important that we understood how that was working for us. So we reevaluated all of the campaigns at a city level, at a geolocation level, and by language, and we were always looking for further optimizations. So the key was here that we didn't just turn it on and walk away. We were constantly evaluating how we could make this better and get more from our spend. So, you know, this isn't a story about a big bang marketing campaign. It's about a lot of incremental improvements over time, and that can really add up to some big wins. So we also are looking at the longer term opportunities available to us, such as generative search and the potential ad opportunities here. Still in the glowing and growing phase, I mentioned the importance of investing in other digital areas that help to keep your cost per acquisition low for your website. So at Big Bus, driving customer advocacy is one of our main business objectives. And a few initiatives that we did here were to optimize all of our Google business listings globally, make sure that we're responding to reviews in a timely manner. And we actually invested in some tech which helps us to gather all of our reviews for each city and across different platforms. So in our case, we have Google, TripAdvisor, Get Your Guide, etc. This platform enables us to pull all of the reviews into one central location and respond to them from that platform. So it really has helped to save some time. One of the key considerations from a UX perspective for us was to shorten the booking journey. Now, we have a really short path to purchase. Unless you are an avid bus tour fan, we're not a considered purchase. So what that means is we have a huge proportion of mobile users. So 77% of our sales are completed on a mobile phone. And that's because our customers are already away from home. They're in the city that they're looking to do sightseeing in, and therefore they're researching and buying on a mobile. So we added Apple and Google Pay onto the checkout. And also we made sure that we were doing this as early on in the booking journey that we could. So in our case, this was at calendar level. So customer can literally select their ticket, select their dates, and then click Apple Pay. Of course, that pre-populates their details and saves them time at checkout and gets our customers onto the bus faster. We also added additional payment methods. And being a global business, we looked at that by source market. So an example of that is a payment method called Sofort, which is widely used in the German market. And Sofort enables payment by bank transfer because actually the German market don't use credit cards in the same way that we would do here in the UK and the US. And finally, from an SEO perspective, we optimized our content to ensure that our visibility was getting better on position 0 rankings and that we were in line for Google's helpful content update. From a longer term perspective, we're looking to introduce more first-party content, particularly around our blog section, with the long-term objective of that getting picked up in more AI-generated content when people are using that to search for things to do in a city. So after all those initiatives, I'm delighted to tell you that we did actually have our best year ever. So compared to FY19, we were able to increase our click-through rates on PPC by 66%, and we grew our overall web traffic by 16% and our revenue by 33%. But more importantly, we were also able to lower our cost per acquisition, so lower our pay away at the same time. So we were over the moon with the results. And please do keep your fingers crossed for us because we're up for a couple of PPC awards in the next couple of months.
So key learnings, what does this mean for your businesses? The first thing is to expect your audience to evolve. There's no such thing as a static audience, particularly in times of change. So it is really important to not only expect that, but plan on that, anticipate where do I actually get these insights? How do I know that my audience is still behaving the same or not? And have the same approach when it comes to your competitors. The other thing is to do that in such a way that you're cross-referencing quantitative data and qualitative data. An interesting example is that at the same time as we were seeing data telling us that concern levels around COVID were fast decreasing, our local and market experts were telling us that language around open air or top deck bus tour, anything to do with essentially being in a spacious, open environment, all of these linguistics were on the rise and really quickly. So at this stage, we knew that whilst concerns are dropping, the symptomatic qualitative insight there was that people's language were also reflecting a bit of a more of a COVID sensitive intent or behavior on search. Also, having this in-market insights will help you understand that these types of events, such as a pandemic, will hit different countries in different ways. Different places went into lockdown at different times. Healthcare systems reacted in different ways. Travelers started traveling to different places with different budgets and different concerns. It's really important to have that data for you to anticipate how is growth going to perform, where is it going to come from, and where can I expect to get better or worse performance over the next, month, 3 month, quarter, half year, and year. And then finally, always consider other external factors. For instance, in Europe, as the cost of living crisis is certainly having an impact on European travel behavior, in the US it's not necessarily the same story. And so what we're seeing is that proportion of overall travel to Europe is more skewed towards US travelers now. So again, what does that mean for the way I'm approaching strategy? What does that mean for communication? And what does that mean for my budget planning?
So as much as I'd like to be able to tell you that we did all of these great initiatives and our competitors stood still, that sadly wasn't the case. So some competitors emerged more strongly than others. In some cities, we were able to gain some really strong SEO wins over our competitors that hadn't taken the time to invest in SEO. But in reverse to that, we saw new competitors emerging in the online space that had also taken the time to invest in a new website and enhance their digital strategies. And they're the ones causing us more of a headache than they did do prior to COVID. So the key thing here is that COVID really accelerated the digitalization of many industries. Ours was no different. So make sure that your competitor knowledge is up to date, particularly across each of your source markets. Familiarize yourselves with their website and their digital strategies so that you can stay on top of what they're doing.
And smart bidding is no silver bullet. It's really important to understand that. Countless times I've seen clients just press the button and hoping that gold was going to pour out of the screen. It just does not work that way. There are many technical considerations. I would even say that the technical changes, the best practice evolution that smart bidding requires is quite deep for us specialists in the industry. I would also say that it's really key to understand where can I build in manual processes that do not disrupt the machine's way of working. Again, there's a lot of technical elements to consider there, and it's really important not to just think that by switching it on, it's just going to work.
I know this is obvious, and at Big Bus we've been thinking about this for a long time, just due to our customer audience being away from home. But mobile UX needs to be an always-on approach. It should be something that's continuously on your roadmap. Don't just make changes to your mobile experience and hope that that's going to cut it for the next couple of years. It needs to be something that's constantly evolving in the same way that your consumer behavior is. I spoke about localizing your payment methods. So if you're a global business and you have customers transacting from different source markets, it's really important that you're offering a payment method that they're comfortable transacting in. So I mentioned the German example here, and just to give you some data, just 20% of German customers own a credit card compared to 67%. So that really goes to show where you think source markets would be pretty similar, really do vary in that aspect. So tailoring your online payment methods by source market will improve your conversion rate and of course give you more credibility in that source market. Don't forget about your customer advocacy. We've seen a huge volume, the volume of reviews are really increasing on Google post-pandemic. So we know increasingly people are looking to their peers before committing to a purchase. So, if you are a global business with multiple operations, make sure your Google business listings are up to date. Google's giving this more and more prominence on the search results, particularly on a mobile. And in our industry, they're introducing new services that are attached to the Google business listing, such as Google Things to Do. Obviously, make sure you're responding to reviews, but it's not enough just to be responding to the reviews. Take the time to understand that insight that you're getting from your customers. What are your pain points across the business? Share that across every department in the business, and if you're a global operation, across all operations, because you can really benefit from the learnings of each other. And that way you're all striving to improve your customer experience, and we know that the cheapest form of advertising is word of mouth and repeat business.
And local in-market expertise is obviously key. As we've just talked about quite a bit, each market is unique, and it's really important to understand how consumer behaviors change, their expectations, and also the competitor landscape, how it is shifting from one market to the other. The best way to understand local market behavior is to have someone in the local market that both can experience the culture, the linguistics, but also the sector itself. And again, I guess the idea is to invite you guys to ask yourselves today, what is my strategy when it comes to international? Do I actually have a plan to capture authentic, local, qualitative data? And if I don't, what am I planning to do about it?
Okay, so we are out of time, but very quickly,
Yeah.
our top three
So really
takeaways
quickly,
are.
quickly, top takeaways. Your audience will keep on changing. Do not only expect it, but anticipate it. Smart bidding is no silver bullet. Plan, have a runway, have a roadmap. Don't just switch it on. And finally, localization and in-market expertise is key. Come and talk to us if you'd like to know a little bit more about that.
And just very quickly, wanted to talk about a great new community set up by Oban for women in international marketing. I'm a member of it, but it's a great place for women working in international marketing to come together, share ideas and network. So ladies, do have a look at the LinkedIn page, and guys, please do tell your colleagues.
If you have any questions, we'll be in Stand EP9 today and tomorrow, so come and have a chat.